Another question that folks should think about as they begin to design assignments and as they begin to design course outcomes is the question of what would happen if my students really got it, if my students really did get what I was trying to teach. What would they be able to do? If we look at this in the context of the critical thinking outcome, different faculty members have said, you know what, if students really got critical thinking, they would be able to listen to an advertisement and recognize the pitch and be able to determine whether or not that pitch was aligned with their values. Or they would be able to read an essay, recognize its thesis, and determine whether or not the evidence that followed supported that thesis or not. Or they would be able to listen to the news, recognize the propaganda, cut through that, and discover what the reality was behind the news story. Or maybe they would be able to rewrite an advertisement in a way that actually aligned the message of the advertisement with the values that the company's trying to promote through that advertisement, to sort of recognize that there's a tension between the money-making goals of the company and the values that they think will actually sell their product. So students could think about those kinds of things. If students were really good critical thinkers, they might be able to do any of those kinds of things and do them well and do them all the time. That would be a wonderful outcome. There is that we make our learning goals for assignments and for course level outcomes SMART. And by SMART, I mean they should be specific. We should really tell the learner what we want. We shouldn't leave the learner guessing about what the intention of their behavior is supposed to be, what we think that they should be doing. It should be measurable. The learner and we should be able to agree on how we're going to determine whether or not that learning goal or that outcome is met. We want to know what the behavior looks like. We want to say clearly what that looks like, and we want a way to measure it. We want to make sure that our goals for assignments and for our courses are attainable, given the amount of time, the actual skill level of the learner, and all of those sorts of things need to be taken into consideration. For instance, you could certainly overload a student by saying, we want you to, be able to read 3 books, write a synthetic review of them, and then put together a video presentation that lays out your review, and we want you to do that in the next 3 days. And probably that's not going to be attainable for an individual learner. And probably at the undergraduate level, that's not going to be attainable for even a group of learners in that short a time frame. So we need to ask ourselves, is what we're asking, in fact, attainable? On the flip side of that, we also need to ask, is it too easy? Could the student attain the goal that we're laying out for them without doing anything in class, without engaging the class at all? And so we want to make sure that we balance challenge with overwhelming the student. So that's what we mean by attainable there. Next, we want to look at relevance. Is the assignment, or is the goal of the assignment, is it relevant? Does it matter to the student? Because if we make the goal matter, if we make it something relevant and meaningful to the student's going to engage it a lot better, just like we would engage it a lot better if we see that it's actually relevant to our lives. So what is it we want them to learn, and is it something that they get is important and that they get excited about learning? And finally, is the assignment or the course outcome going to produce something tangible? Is it going to result in some sort of product that the learner can show off and say, look, this is an example of something I've learned. This is something I can show an employer, or this is something I can show mom and dad, or this is something I can show my friends and say, hey, look how good I've learned what I'm supposed to learn in this particular class. And we want students to have something tangible, because in many ways we want students to be able to sit down with you and have a conversation about this tangible artifact of their learning, and you can evaluate that artifact and the student can evaluate that artifact, and you can talk about how it exhibits the kinds of behavior that you're expecting of the student should they be successful at the learning experience. And so that's what we mean by SMART goals. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and tangible. And this presentation is brought to you by the General Education Council of Southern Nazarene University and the College of Teaching and Learning. And I do just want to make special note that all the images used in this presentation were licensed with Creative Commons licenses, and that this presentation is licensed with Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share Alike licensing. Thanks.